I don't trust men without a dark side, you guys. Not because they're immoral, but because they mistake endurance for virtue. Machiavelli warned us about this. A man who depends on being liked gives others control over his fate. I learned this the hard way. There was a woman in my life, no names, no drama, where I kept showing up as the accommodating version of myself, listening, adjusting, giving grace, giving time, not because it was right, but because I was trying to preserve a connection. And one day, I realized something uncomfortable. The longer I stayed understanding, the smaller I became. So I cut the cord. I flipped the switch. Not out of cruelty, not out of anger, but out of self-preservation. Machiavelli understood this better than most men today. Withdrawal is a form of power. Distance is not punishment. It's strategy. When a man refuses to walk away, he teaches others that access to him is unlimited. And unlimited access destroys respect. That moment wasn't about her. It was about reclaiming authority over my time, my energy, and my center. Because a man without the capacity to sever a bond is not loyal. He's trapped. And a man who can't walk away will always be negotiated down. This episode isn't about being heartless. It's about being sovereign. Because the most dangerous men aren't cruel. They're disciplined enough to leave. You are listening to the Masculine Mindset Show, a podcast for men to develop a backbone, a masculine purpose, if you will, and get more physically attractive, and even become more mentally healthy. All you men listening, I turn nice introverts into fit, self-entitled savages, if you will. And you might even become a little cocky as a result of your G status. More importantly, you guys, I also show you how to flirt and date more women and seal the deal. Just look at the show notes. They are all on my blog articles. Let's get into the content. Why niceness becomes self-betrayal. Here's a mistake most men make after a situation like that. They tell themselves they were being good, but Machiavelli would have called it something else. Political weakness. Because when you give endlessly without leverage, you aren't being virtuous. You're being governed. I wasn't loyal in that situation. I was hesitant to withdraw. And hesitation is expensive. Nice men don't lose because they're kind. They lose because they refuse to enforce cost. They over-explain, they over-give, they tolerate behavior they would never recommend to another man. And slowly, almost invisibly, their standards erode. Machiavelli warned that generosity without restraint leads to contempt, not admiration. Contempt. Brothers, listen to me. I know I got straight to the content, but I want to say this real quick. Merry Christmas to you all. Alright? Today is December 25th. I want you to check the show notes, as I always say. Okay? I still have my premium products in there. Let's keep fucking going. Why men who do favors for everyone lose leverage. Part 2. Machiavelli understood something most men avoid confronting. Power is not maintained by generosity alone. It's maintained by selective withdrawal. This is where the nice guy collapses. He believes that effort earns loyalty, that consistency earns appreciation, that favors by goodwill. But Machiavelli would tell you the truth. People don't respect what is always available. Every time you say yes when you want to say no, you teach people something about you. You teach them that your time is flexible, that your boundaries are movable, that your presence is negotiable. And once something is negotiable, it is eventually discounted. The man who does favors for everyone isn't generous. He's unmanaged. He hasn't decided who deserves access, who earns effort, who receives patience, so everyone takes from him. Okay? The cost? Well, what does that cost? this quote-unquote nice guy. It costs him mental fatigue, quiet resentment, loss of impact, subtle contempt from others, and the most dangerous part, he starts calling this exhaustion being a good guy. Machiavelli warned against this exact mistake. He said, excessive generosity leads not to loyalty, but to dependency and eventual disdain. Why is that? Because people value what has conditions. A man who never withholds anything has no influence when it matters. Here's a brutal truth most men don't want to hear, you guys. Okay? If you are over accommodating, if you are way too excited to even talk to the girl that you're talking to, you are not respected. You are useful. And usefulness is not power. People protect what they respect. They exploit what they can replace. Over-accommodation, you guys, is not kindness. It's a refusal to prioritize yourself. It's choosing short-term peace over long-term authority. Now, this is the point, you guys, okay? Nice guys avoid tension. Strong men contain it. Sovereign men allow discomfort without flinching. Machiavelli admired men who could endure disapproval without scrambling to fix it. Now, I'm going to tie this back into relationships with women, right? In relationships, personal, professional, even romantic, the man who gives endlessly without cost eventually becomes invisible. Not hated, not rejected, just ignored, walked over, a fucking pushover. And nothing terrifies the accommodating man more than irrelevance, so he gives more. That's the trap. Machiavelli never told men to be cruel. He told them to be decisive, you guys. Decisive men don't explain their boundaries in paragraphs. They enforce them with absence. Because absence is the only language that doesn't get negotiated. If you cannot withdraw support, your support has no value. And if you cannot walk away, you are not choosing to stay. Part 3, the dark side of men. The dark side of men. Now, this is the part where I talk about what Machiavelli actually meant, okay? So, when most people hear dark side, they imagine cruelty, chaos, impulse. That's not what Niccolo Machiavelli meant. Machiavelli admired men who could contain force, not spray it. Your dark side is not what you do when you lose control. It's what you could do and deliberately choose not to. That's power. A man without a dark side isn't peaceful. He's harmless. And harmless men don't create safety. They create dependency. Now, if you lack the capacity to withdraw, your loyalty is meaningless. If you lack the capacity to disappoint, your kindness is hollow. If you lack the capacity to enforce cost, your boundaries are suggestions. Machiavelli respected men who could act decisively and remain composed afterward. That composure is discipline. The dark side is leverage, you guys. It's not violence, it's not intimidation, it's leverage, okay? Now, here's what I mean by that, you guys. It's the ability to leave a room without explanation, the ability to end access without trauma, the ability to let silence do the work. Machiavelli understood this. The threat of force restrained governs behavior better than force ever could. Now, I'm going to go back to the cord-cutting story for 2 seconds. When I walked away, nothing exploded. There was no punishment per se. There was no speech at all. Just absence. And absence clarified everything. That's the dark side of working properly. Now, let's contrast the two archetypes. The nice guy hopes. The disciplined man decides. The nice guy negotiates himself smaller. The sovereign man holds his position and lets others adjust. A man with no dark side must convince people to respect him. A man who's mastered his dark side never needs to. Now, this is the Machiavellian seal, you guys. Machiavelli didn't fear darkness. He feared weakness masquerading as virtue. Because the most dangerous men aren't emotional. They're regulated. They don't need to raise their voice. They don't need to prove anything. They simply remove themselves and let the consequences educate. That is the difference between cruelty and command. Guys, listen to me. A lot of people, they misinterpret my dark side. I'm going to get to that a little later in the podcast, but they do. So, let's keep moving forward. Part 4, withdrawal, distance, and hierarchy, where power actually reasserts itself. Here's the part most men misunderstand about walking away. They think withdrawal is weakness. They think distance means loss. They think absence makes them irrelevant. Niccolo Machiavelli understood the opposites. Distance doesn't erase hierarchy, it reveals it. When a man removes himself without explanation, people are forced to feel the absence instead of arguing with him. And the feelings teach faster than words. This is why over-accommodating men panic at the idea of stepping back. Because distance removes their only leverage, effort. If you're always present, no one notices when you arrive. If you're always available, your withdrawal has no impact. If you're always explaining, silence feels like death. Niccolo Machiavelli warned against this. A man who relies on constant presence must maintain it forever. Guys, this exhaustion, this servitude, okay? Every relationship has hierarchy. Not because people are cruel, no, but because order always forms. Someone sets the pace, someone sets the terms, someone decides when access ends. And when you refuse to walk away, you volunteer for the lower position. When I withdraw, I didn't argue my value. I didn't negotiate my standards. I didn't seek understanding. I let the structure reset itself. That's what Machiavelli meant by control without spectacle. The nice guy stays and explains himself. The sovereign man leaves and lets reality speak. Presence is only powerful when absence is possible. Machiavelli taught rulers to withdraw strategically, so their return carried weight. The same applies to men. If you cannot create distance, you cannot create respect. And if your absence doesn't change the dynamic, your presence never mattered. That's not cruelty, that's clarity. Part 5, misinterpretation versus discernment. Why distance reveals who can see clearly. So, there is another lesson here most men miss. And it has nothing to do with being dangerous, and everything to do with who is capable of perceiving power correctly. I once spoke openly about my dark side on an interview, not theatrically, not emotionally, just honestly. And one woman who only knew me through words, context, and projection misinterpreted it completely. This is the part of the interview that I'm going to talk about, okay? So when I mentioned that when you do shadow work, this is how I shadow myself. I shadow myself by saying that you can do violent shit to another human being, but control that part of you, that killer instinct that I covered on that episode called Unlike Your Dark Side to Attract Women. Yeah, find it. I believe it's episode 526 on how to get the girl. Ask women how to get the girl. But anyways, she misinterpreted my dark side, okay? She didn't see discipline. She didn't see restraint. She didn't see self-command. She saw threats. Because people who lack internal order fear contained strength. Machiavelli warned us about this. People judge power through the lens of their own capacity. Let that sit. Just let it sit. We should swallow that, okay? If someone has no relationship with their own shadow, they will always demonize yours. But here's the difference, brothers. Here's the difference. Another woman saw that same dark side. Yes. Not through a screen, not through theory, but in real life. Shout out to Penelope. She saw how it showed up in stillness, in posture, in restraint. How I didn't react. I basically lost my wallet, you guys. Yeah, I lost my wallet. I was looking for it. I got a little heated about it. Anyways, she didn't judge it. She did not judge it. Not for a second. Because she could feel the regulation behind it. Machiavelli understood this distinction well. The masses react to appearances. The discerning few recognize structure. Some people confuse calm authority with danger. Others recognize it as safety through control. The woman who feared it needed chaos to feel comfortable. The woman who respected it understood order. Now, back to the tangent, right? This is why you don't explain your dark side to everyone. Power that needs clarification is already weakened. Those who matter will recognize it. Those who don't were never meant to be close. Machiavelli never advised rulers to convince the crowd. He taught them to govern reality and let perception sort itself out. Your job isn't to be understood by everyone, you guys. It's to be clear in yourself, because the wrong people will always fear your darkness, and the right ones will recognize it as restraint. Strength through restraint, you guys. Let's go. I want to take a quick second to tell you guys to please check the show notes. Join my SKOOL community. Now, let's continue. Okay? Oh yeah, and leave me that 5-star review, please and thanks. Now, part 6. The body as proof of regulation, where theory becomes undeniable. Okay? Here's a part Machiavelli never had to explain, because it was obvious in his time. Power is embodied. A man can talk about restraint all day, but if his body shakes under pressure, his boundaries won't hold. The body is the enforcement mechanism. Training teaches tolerance for discomfort, emotional regulation under stress, decision-making without negotiation. This is why weak bodies over-explain. They haven't learned how to stay calm when it's uncomfortable. A trained body doesn't posture, it settles. That's why the woman who saw my dark side in person didn't judge it. She felt the regulation behind it. Machiavelli understood that order begins internally. If you can't govern yourself, you will always be governed by others. Let that sit, you guys, okay? Strength doesn't make you cruel. It makes you selective. Now, guys, listen to me. Pretty soon, I'm going to be launching a new version of my program, Alpha Body Bootcamp. It's going to be called Alpha Body Bootcamp Elite. I suggest you get on board soon, because I'm going to actually say this real quick. Alpha Body Bootcamp Elite exists for men who are done negotiating with themselves. Not men trying to look impressive. Men rebuilding command. The outcomes you'll get: a body that holds pressure, a nervous system that stays calm, boundaries that don't need speeches, a presence that doesn't ask for permission. This isn't about becoming darker. It's about becoming disciplined enough to contain it. Machiavellian mic drop. Oh, here we go. Guys, listen to me. Niccolo never asked men to be loved. He asked them to be effective. And effective men don't chase understanding. They govern themselves and let the world respond. If you cannot walk away, you are choosing to stay. And if your dark side isn't disciplined, it isn't power. It's just noise. Train your body, regulate the mind, withdraw when necessary. That's not cruelty. That's self-preservation. Now, brothers, listen to me. I love you. Leave me a 5-star review. And Merry Christmas, okay? Have a very Merry Machiavellian Christmas. Let's go. Peace out, you guys. It is December 25th in the States. Let's go. I appreciate you.